Well, good morning. Keith Hayes in Lewes in East Sussex in the UK with uh, Break an Egg. That's the title I really quite like. Break an Egg. And several people, we've used that for about 2 or 3 years, or 3 or 4 years actually. Break an egg, which is a takeoff, of course, on the actors break a leg, but we don't mind pinching things from all over the place. The fact about it is, do we have fun? Now, yesterday afternoon, I did a sort of a tea time thing, which was just an ad hoc thing, looking at one or two bits and pieces that we had played in the past or done in the past, and there were just a couple that struck me as amusing and also struck some of our viewers. And one said, but they are a bit fuzzy. So this may be a bit fuzzy, but it's not terribly long. But if it does work, it tells us what Lewis is all about. Well, there you are. That's a different start to the day, isn't it? That's bustling Lewis, and let's hope that that is going to return. There is a different feeling in the air since the announcement last week that we can see an end to lockdown, not an end to COVID. That's going to be with us for a long time, but an end to lockdown with a little bit of caution and without lots of silly people rushing off to the seaside and hugging and kissing. You're going to hug and kiss. God's sake, do it somewhere where you can't be seen. Like in the old days, in the Victorian days. Anyway, let's take a look at a few news headlines, shall we? On the national scene, poor old Alex Salmond is in trouble again. He's claimed that there's a conspiracy against him, and he's certainly fallen out with the other Scottish vocal person, vocal leader, um, Nicola Sturgeon. So there's an internecine row going on in Scotland between the Scots for once, instead of them picking on us. So that's always interesting. But perhaps one of the things that has caught my eye is that there have been an alarming rise in accidents, somewhat called smart motorways. In other words, they took away the verges so that they could speed up the traffic. And what's happened is that more people are being killed because cars break down and they have to stop. And they've been stopping on the verge, and along around a corner comes a speeding vehicle, wham, bam, and there they go, both people and vehicle. So now that we've official um, policy has been to build these things, now we're looking at ditching them and not building any more, and perhaps even altering the ones that we've got. Lovely story. The National Trust is to plant blossom trees around the UK. That'd be wonderful. That really would be wonderful. And more controversial, I suppose, is Labour has renewed its vow to keep nuclear weapons. Now, I know I've got friends in the Labour Party, and they have marched with CND in the past. How that's going to go down, I have no idea. So those are the key things, other than COVID this morning. And the big COVID thing is that the Queen took the jab. And luckily, she did take my advice. She phoned up yesterday and said, "Keith, I'm going for the jab. What can you tell me about it?" And I said, "Ma'am, you will not feel a thing." And this morning, there she is quoted as saying, "I didn't feel a thing." So the Queen has gone and had her jab, and all those people that are worried about it. And it's amazing how many people did worry about it. I didn't quite understand that because it's painless. In fact, I didn't even know that mine had been done. The nurse who I was chatting to said, "Come on, there are people behind you. Get out through the door." I said, "Oh, we finished?" Yes, out we went, and it was all over within minutes. So we really don't worry about it, because some friends of mine in other parts of the country have said they had cocktail parties amongst their family, amongst those they were allowed to have cocktails with, and just to bolster their courage to go and have this thing done. There's nothing to it. I mean, in fact, the flu jab hurts a bit more. And if you give blood, that hurts even a little bit more than that, and none of them hurt much. So the Queen has given us the nod. You can go and get your jab with safety. It's got the royal seal of approval, and you'll be safe for a while until at least you get the second one. But even then, I think that the statistics are showing, and the research is showing, is that once you've had one jab, is that it is so effective that yes, we should all have the second one. But the first one is working very well. Thank you very much, and that's great. Having said that, there were some deaths in the last 48 hours in Lewis. Not many, but we're quite low on the totem pole. But we have had deaths from COVID, and it's a good idea to make sure that. Just trying to see if I can find the local news items, but I can do that in a little while. Now, one of the things that I would like you to perhaps enjoy with me, I hope enjoy with me, is in the days when we were first going, we tried to do some things that might be intriguing. And I came across this one, which I played yesterday afternoon, and I thought it might just be something that people would enjoy this morning. So here it is before the weather.
Hi, welcome to Mirador Television. This is local TV, but probably not local TV as you know it. We don't have much cash, so for one thing, we have to do much of our stuff outside. We don't even have a studio. So we don't even have a weather presenter. But we will try to bring you the weather. So when you see me with an umbrella, it's raining. So when I have my walking stick, it's fine. If my hat blows off, it's windy. And if I'm wearing a bikini, it's hot. Not that you're going to see me in a bikini very often. The body's gone, you see. Not a pretty sight. But when it comes to mixed weather, well, we really have a problem. It's silly of us to serve up the same old rubbish that you can see on regular television, so we're serving up rubbish of our own. But I hope that it's nutty enough to bring you back to watch us again. Stick with us, Nutty TV.
Well, you are nutty TV. And I think that from Monday we'll get nuttier. We don't mean to be too serious, but there are things, and have been for the last 2 months, that have needed being brought before us. We've all woken up agog as to what's going to happen next, whether in fact we can go to the pub or we can't go to the pub, or whether we can shop or can't shop, or whether in fact we can actually hug, which is always very pleasant to be able to hug. And that's been off the agenda for some time. So Nutty TV, and that's how we decided that we would let the people know about the weather, and we might just resurrect that. I don't know. We'll see. My body is in no better shape now than it was then. But also, let's if you take a look outside, and I'm taking a look outside, it's a gorgeous day. It's a clear sky, a cloudless sky at this very moment in time, and it will reach 11 degrees. 11 degrees today, no rain, and only a light wind. So a very, very pleasant day. The trouble is at this time of year, with no cloud cover, is that the heat escapes. So tonight it's going to plummet down to just 2 degrees. So do be careful. Don't get fooled by a nice day today, which is going to be. 11 degrees isn't that balmy. I mean, it has been up to 17 the last few days, but it's not that balmy, but it's not bad either. 11 degrees. So don't get fooled, and decide that what you'll do is you'll put on your bikini tonight, because you could get very cold. I reading in the news what's been going on, and generally speaking, there does seem to be an air of relief. The trouble is, of course, is one problem follows another. And the air of relief, the fact that we are going to come out of lockdown, is tempered by the fact that some of the statistics, as a result of COVID and as a result of lockdown, are a bit frightening. We are having in the next couple of days or so the latest unemployment figures, and those people that have actually managed to crack them and take a look before they're officially released say they're pretty horrific. And of course, what's going to happen to furlough? Will suddenly those people who have been on a form of salary find that they're not on it anymore, and that they will face some of the horrors that the rest of us have had to fight through? It is worth thinking about, particularly if you are on furlough. And if the economy is going to creak, are we going to face redundancies? Are people going to lose their jobs? So there are a few things that we have to take into consideration. So before you go blowing all your bank balance when the shops open again, and that's the prediction, is that we're going to have a heavy bout of buying, that it'll be like the New Year sales, that everybody will rush to the shops, and for the shopkeepers, I hope so, because that certainly will give them a kickstart into 2021. And it's been a bad enough start. But the problem is, of course, is those people who blow their bank balance, they're going to have a real problem, because the jobs will be scarcer. And I suspect, therefore, that salaries will come down. And already there is controversy as people discuss wage freezes and so on. And of course, one would expect, because they have been the heroines, the heroes, because now we have male nurses, is that the nurses have been wonderful leaders for us and wonderful examples for us throughout lockdown, throughout the pandemic, and now there is talk of freezing their salaries. So you can imagine that we're in for quite a bit of controversy, quite a bit of fighting, quite a bit of perhaps even threats to go on strike. Who knows? So it's not all going to be plain sailing. So let's enjoy the first day that we can get into a pub and have a pint. And also let's celebrate the fact that we can go to the shops, and that we can probably enjoy these again. Where are they? Right. They've gone. Never mind. It's one of those things. Oh, here we are. Let's take a look at the shops. Whoopee! But be careful how you spend your dosh, because some of it may be a struggle in finding as we go into this brave new world post COVID. COVID. Notice I pronounce it properly. There are two things locally that caught my eye. One is that takeaway beer will be allowed after when the pubs reopen in April. You can actually go and get beer from the pub and you can carry it out. We used to, in my early days, every pub had an off license, and then they stopped doing that. So they just sold beer and spirits, and they sold it any time of day. But they didn't really sell it over the counter in the main. The old off license part of the pub disappeared, and we had wine shops. The trouble is that the wine shops have hit problems. So apart from the brewery, Harvey's, who have wine in their shops and beer in in a shop anyway. The other wine shops have disappeared. There's one just outside the station, which is a sort of, it's not really a wine shop, it's not a booze shop, but you can get booze there. It's sort of a general store outside the station. But generally speaking, we don't have the wine shops anymore. And sometimes when we do away with one thing, we never think about the future. That's for some reason, we may not have the replacements, and we don't have the replacements anymore. Wine shops have disappeared. Yeah, you can get it online, but it's all very well. I, for one, because I'm relatively ancient and I wasn't born in the computer generation, although I did see much of the start of it, and that was fascinating. That was just absolutely great to see how computers slowly came into our lives. And those who are part of the computer age don't realize that it wasn't so long ago when nobody had a computer. And when you did have one, you had to put a disk in and it went all over the place and it didn't do half the things that we wanted them to. But anyway, things disappear and wine shops have disappeared. You can get stuff online and you're encouraged to buy stuff online. But we've got to be very careful that we don't, with our shopping, get carried away the way the banks have. Oh, it was all going to be a brave new world for the banks when computers came in. Well, it may be a brave new world for the banks, but it's a nightmare for a lot of us because when it goes wrong, it goes wrong. And there's nothing you can do about it. The banks aren't forgiving. They still charge you for being overdrawn, even though it may be their fault. They still, if you're defrauded because of the glitch in their computer, they say they look at it, but they come to very strange decisions. I've had 2 cases now and never got a penny back. The lady said, "We need to look after the bank's money." No, you're looking after my money, and you didn't. Partly that's all because you're using computers, and the computer got a glitch, and the computer went wrong. And we've got to really watch how we introduce computers. But anyway, computers online and so on is fine, but it doesn't necessarily replace the shop on the high street. And if I may say so, is the first thing I'm going to have to do is to get that bit is to get a haircut. Try getting a haircut online. And I feel the same thing about my booze. I want to be able to look. I want to be able to look at the label. I want to be able to look at the color. I want to be able to feel the wine when I'm looking at it before I purchase it. It's great online. And in fact, we've got Fergus Wood, who sells a very esoteric and not esoteric is probably the wrong word, exotic wines online. And it's terrific. And I'm all for being able to get it that way, but as a mix and a match, not as a sole way of getting your goods. And having, I mean, apart from which is, how the hell do I know when I'm going to be in? Somebody turns up and leaves all sorts of goods on my front door, or doesn't, and takes them away, as the case may be. Where am I with? Nothing to eat, nothing to drink. Oh. Actually, I had a lovely chat to my doctor, Jason Heath. He's a very interesting man. But he was cautioning me about sugar intake because I'd had some blood tests and my sugar level was bouncing a bit towards diabetes. So he said, be careful. and he said, watch out for fruit. He said, we've been taught 5 a day keeps the doctor away, and so on and so forth. I said, well, I'm not telling you not to eat fruit, but it is very sugarful, so you have to be careful. And he then said, and how much are you drinking? Because I'm sure that on my file is the fact that at one time I was a fairly heavy drinker. And on a very, 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 very odd occasion now, I can be. But I was able to laugh and say, I've had a bottle of red wine here for 10 days and I haven't even uncorked it yet. So I pleased him. But by the same token, getting stuff online isn't the be all and end all. And there are some things where if you want quality, you would need to look. I mean, will you buy a car totally online? Yes, some people will, I know. But if I was going to pay out a few thousand for a Rolls Royce or Aston Martin or whatever, then I think I would want to take a look at it before I got it. I wouldn't want to part with that sort of money if I was just doing it online. So I think there is a happy balance that we've got to find somewhere. The banks haven't found it. The credit card companies haven't found it. But presumably they will. And the funny thing is that, it's sometimes if the credit card companies and the banks and so on and so forth, they get a response from you, and they make it very difficult for you to respond. They know how to get hold of you, but they make it difficult for you to get back to them. But quite often what they do is they then revert to chopping down a rainforest to send you a mountain of paper. When we look at the changes that COVID and lockdown bring, I think that the way that the financial sector particularly does business is something that we really need to look at. We really need to find out whether we're going to get a satisfactory system that's going to help us and be compliant with our needs as opposed to those of the banks and the financial institutions. Oh, I love these rants in the morning. That's one of my favorite topics. If money is going to be at the centerpiece of our lives, then we will talk about it, but we can't be all one-sided. Paul Fowle yesterday, when he was with me, said something that hadn't occurred to me. We were talking about the Chancellor of the Exchequer putting up his new budget, and that how he will have to be careful about the monetary system and so on, because it's very key to our existence, to the centre of our life, the centre of our economy. And he said he can't really go down to the Bank of England and talk to the governor because the Bank of England is shut and the governor isn't there. And that had never occurred to me, that the Bank of England, of course, would shut. Now, I'm sure it's functioning. Don't worry, we're not left adrift. But nonetheless, it just shows how we tend to think of what's happening to us and then don't apply it to the things that we're so used to. So that's the sort of thing I think that we need to think very carefully about. And what are we going to do? Here is a golden opportunity for reform. Oh dear. Any politician who's listening or listens later on in the day and hears the word reform will shudder. They hate the word reform. They're onto a very good jag, thank you very much. And they don't want to see a system where they might have to do more and be paid less. But there we are. That's life. Let's just go to the heart of the economy, shall we? Here are a couple of operations that hopefully we'll see back once we get rid of lockdown.
When you've missed the train, don't despair. Have a nice cup of coffee. And perhaps a mince pie. At the Runaway on Lewes Station. After that, why worry about the next train? The runway on Lewes Station. Relaxation beyond compare.
Now, those businesses, the coffee shop on Lewes Station has kept going. Pavel has kept it going. Hasn't been quite the cozy place that it has been in the past because we've had to worry about lockdown and staying socially distanced and all that sort of stuff. But God bless it, it's like the Windmill Theatre in London and like Mirador Television, we never closed. Irving International is training organization, mostly corporate, but we are beginning to gather some interesting things such as how to pot a plant and how to store a bottle of wine properly. And those are things that will be coming along with Irving. So they're ready to get cracking post-COVID. And of course, the pub situation, and not only the brewers, where our little puppy dog is waiting for his crisps, but also the other 15 pubs in Lewes, all bursting at the seams, straining at the leash, ready to serve us again. And that should be, well, on Monday, we can say next month, because it is April that they're expected. And in the news this morning, not earth-shattering news, I suppose, but we will be able to get takeaway beer service from the pub. So once again, at what time you used to be able to pop down to the local and get your bottle of cider or a bottle of beer or whatever and take it home, and a lot of people did as they weren't able or didn't want to come out. And then the off license tended to disappear, and we went to wine stores. At the wine stores, where there are 16 pubs in Lewes, there would have been 16 off licenses. Then suddenly we're down to just one wine bar or one wine shop, and that's a bit naughty, really. Nobody thought it through. And then, of course, the last scene there was of the Lewes fruit and vegetable market, which is terrific. The stuff there is really good. The people are very nice. It's worth going to. That has been carrying on throughout the lockdown, but I'm quite sure that more and more people will want to go and shop in the precinct at that market as we get used to being let free again. Well, there you are. Now it's 8 o'clock, bang on 8 o'clock. Just a reminder of the news headlines this morning. Nothing really earth-shattering. The Queen has said, "By golly, I didn't feel a thing when I had the jab," and that's good because I didn't either. And it's no big deal. In fact, if there's anything that's bad about it, is we have to wait. And they've even got that down to a fine art now. And I don't suppose the Queen had to wait. And on the second time round, I didn't have to wait. The ugly part of it is being taken out. Alex Salmond in Scotland is in full-scale row with Nicola Sturgeon, and God bless them. The fiery Scots are very bellicose sometimes, and let them have a go at one another because we've got so much on our plate. We really don't need some of the separation talk. Whether you approve of it or not, we don't need the talk right now. We don't need to focus on something like that when we've got Brexit to deal with, and that's not proving easy, and we never thought it would. Brexit to deal with, and also the COVID and lockdown to deal with. So be a bit careful about Alex Salmond and Nicola Sturgeon having a go at one another. The smart motorways have become quite controversial because a smart motorway is one that's built and designed to make traffic faster, and that's fine. If you break down on it, there's nowhere to go, and people have been wiped out at a much higher rate than average. A lorry coming around the corner, and there's a car that's broken down, trying to change a tire or get help of some sort. People standing by it, wham, the car and the people have gone. And then there are tears all around. So MPs are saying, hey, let's take a look at this. It's all very well, but sometimes efficiency really needs to be jettisoned for reality, if you like, and compassion. The National Trust is going to plant blossom trees all around the UK. I think that's a terrific idea. We need some really nice flowers and trees and bushes and so on. And let us not forget, because it is easy to forget. Excuse me if I wobble your picture a little bit. It is easy to forget that people in every community do things to try to make our towns prettier. And none less than Stephen Catlett, who is our watchdog man for the local councils, but also a councillor himself for the town, and likely to be our next mayor in May. And Stephen quietly goes about looking after little parks and little planters and the secret garden. If you're walking down Friars Walk to the left, just before you get, just past All Saints Church. In fact, it always backs onto All Saints Church. Between All Saints Church and the House of Friendship, I think that's the correct title. It is a lonely little narrow, what was once a lane. And Stephen and his colleagues have turned that into just a beautiful, beautiful little park or garden, if you like, away from home. And he looks after the planters outside places like Fuego. And while Bill Hickok's, which is the restaurant next door, just in case you don't recognize the title. But also up in Western Road. And I mean, silly nonsense. It just shows how daft some of our councils and councillors can be. He was looking after a little park up there, pottering away and doing it out of his own pocket and being a very, very nice chap. When suddenly the county council, decided that they owned it and that they wanted him to stop it. They would do it themselves. So procedure. They put it out to tender. Whether anybody won the tender or not, we have no idea. But what did happen was suddenly nobody tended that park. So Stephen eventually went back and said, look, it's just becoming a mess. Why don't you either give it to the town so that we can look after it, or I will do it personally? We can't do that. But anyway, when they looked at it, they said, well, of course, if you want to take it over yourself, it'll cost you a license of 350 quid. So for doing a neighbourly act, for doing an act which is going to help our community. It just shows how daft our governments can get sometimes. Politicians are so defensive, they will never, ever look and say, oh, gosh, we got that wrong. Or we could do that a different way. Oh, no. What they want is to make sure that they can embark upon their policies, and nothing else must stand in the way. Good governance has gone out of the window, I'm afraid. And actually, strangely enough, whether you love him or you like him, is Boris recognized that before the last election. And he made a keynote speech, which was overtaken by events, in other words, lockdown. He made a keynote speech and said, the way we're governed at the moment, governance in the United Kingdom from top to bottom, whether you're talking about Westminster or whether you're talking about the local council, and not down even to parish councils, is not fit for purpose. And we've got to review it and decide how to reform it. Don't say that word, reform. Everybody scurries to where they're making a nice little bit on the side, and they don't want reform. But it is time, and perhaps this period of our history where we were forced indoors and locked away is a time for reflection. And don't let that reflection, because it's not been easy, go to waste. Don't let people decide, oh, well, now that we're through it, we won't bother to do anything and people will soon forget. Let us not forget. We're very good at remembering some things, so let us not forget. Anyway, it's all very well, isn't it? It's all very well. But who are we to say these things? Who are we to start to say, you should do this and you should do that? Well, we only say it on the basis that if you don't say it that way, nobody gets excited. So we don't really mean that you should take our opinion. But what we do mean is that some of the issues we talk about need to be looked at, need to be thought about, need to be thought out. This is who we are. Well, there you are. That's Mirador Television, and perhaps I may, it may, if I wish, if you will be so kind as to allow me to, is just play the way that we used to do the weather, or at least we said we were going to do the weather. This was in 2017.
Hi, welcome to Mirador Television. This is local TV, but probably not local TV as you know it. We don't have much cash, so for one thing, we have to do much of our stuff outside. We don't even have a studio. So we don't even have a weather presenter. But we will try to bring you the weather. So when you see me with an umbrella, it's raining. So when I have my walking stick, it's fine. If my hat blows off, it's windy. And if I'm wearing a bikini, it's hot. Not that you're going to see me in a bikini very often. The body's gone, you see. Not a pretty sight. But when it comes to mixed weather, well, we really have a problem. It's silly of us to serve up the same old rubbish that you can see on regular television, so we're serving up rubbish of our own. But I hope that it's nutty enough to bring you back to watch us again. Stick with us, Nutty TV.
And the weather is it's going to be about 11 degrees today. Not balmy the way it has been, but it's not bad. I have to convert it for me to know whether it's hot or cold or whatever. I think it's twice 11 is 22 plus 32 is about nudging 60. That's okay, I suppose. But do be careful because there is no cloud cover today. The skies are clear, which makes a lovely day. But the temperature will plunge to just above freezing tonight, 2 degrees, and that can be very cool. So be careful, be very careful with how you go this evening. The weather is not going to be very pleasant. Right, okay. What are we going to do next? Oh, we were talking about the weather, of course, and the weather is likely to be okay for the weekend. Much the same, really, that it will be pleasant. And there's not much wind either. I looked out at my famous tree this morning. I mean, it's a bit like me, for me, reading the moss on the back of the trees to find out what the weather is going to do, is I look out at my tree over there. I hope they never cut it down. And it tells me whether there's much wind around. And there is certainly not this morning. There's very, very little movement in the branches. So there we are. Not a great deal of wind. Up to 11 degrees, sunny, no cloud, no rain. All in all, a very pleasant sort of day. But, of course, no cloud cover. Cool this evening. There, I knew I had something to tell you. It's, that's the weather. Uh, on the news front, the one or two things that we haven't mentioned, that Shamima Begum is the lady that went off and joined ISIS and then had a change of heart after saying how awful this country was and marrying at a young age and so on. And she wants to come back because she had her citizenship stripped, as I recall, and she wants to come back. But now the courts have to rule whether she can come back or not. I don't know how I feel about it. I don't really have any view one way or the other. I don't think. I just don't think that what we should do is we should create a society where nobody has to pay for their mistakes. Is that old-fashioned? No, I don't think it is, because there is a price to pay for everything. And sometimes some of the things that we would like to be in place can't be in place because it's not the way of the world. So we have to be a bit careful about things like that. And I hope that somebody makes a sensible decision somewhere. And it's not done on emotion, one way or the other. All right, we're 8:14. Wow, 3/4 of an hour into this program. I would like to alert you to what's happening on Mirador in the next little while. Have we got anything that I could show you? No, we haven't really. But Mirador has been through a tough time this past 2 months. Some of the finance that we expected, anticipated, didn't materialize. The market has gone dead, as you can well imagine. We've had bills to pay, which we found difficult. We had no help from the government so far, although we are promised by the local council they're at least taking a look to see whether we qualify. And well, we do qualify, but when and where we'll get it is another question. But it has not been a good 2 months for us. And we were, like a lot of people, we didn't really anticipate it and expect it. is mea culpa. We're journalists, and we are to some extent economists. So we've got a good economist on board in Paul Fowl. I was a Reuters journalist, so have a little bit of knowledge about the economy and how the finance world works. We should have realized just what was going to happen, and we didn't. And as a consequence, we've had a very, very rough time. But there's no sense, and we haven't come on daily bleating about it. We have mentioned some of the practical solutions that have disappeared, but we haven't come on bleating about it because there are around the country, another 3 million people who have had the same sort of experience. And across Lewis District, I understand from the sparse figures that we got from the council, is there are about 400 other businesses here who fell through the loop, through the cracks, who got no support. And we're the people that actually, part of the reason that we fell through is because we kept going. We didn't close. If we'd have closed our doors, the chances are that we'd be given some money to stay shut. I mean, that's the sort of nonsense that has to be looked at. That's Alice in Wonderland stuff, isn't it? Never mind. That's the way that it is. That's the way it has been. And now that I've moaned about how tough it's been for us, look at my face. We take the view here when times get tough, the tough get going. Mirador is tough. It's not going to be wiped out overnight just like that. But it may change its views and its attitudes towards some things. But nonetheless, we're still here and we expect to still be here. But what we are doing is it gave us a chance to take a look at what we've been doing right and what we've been doing wrong. And we've been doing some things right and some things wrong. And we've quietly dropped those things, or some of the things that we felt that we were doing that was wrong. One of the things that all the experts said, and we didn't pay too much or enough attention to it, is that going live and broadcasting live is not only helpful to the community, but people prefer it to seeing a packaged deal. So we are doing much more live and less packaged as we forge ahead. And in a funny sort of way that I shouldn't say it's less expensive because we've got a budget to do things and the budget will be filled because you still need people. But we won't, the emphasis will be more on live broadcasting. And on this system, people can jump in. In fact, we do have already one or two guests, but we're going to increase that so that we can talk to people in our community so that you can hear what they have to say. And if you want, you can question them. And then we shall return with what was a bit heavier, but our round table, which was done on a Sunday night. Well, we actually recorded it on a Sunday night, and out it went. Sometimes on Monday, by the time it had been transferred from continent to continent and looked at and edited and so on. Well, now it will go out live. We do it on a Sunday night, it'll go out on a Sunday night. It'll be available just the same as all other programs. So I do get that in the morning, these little hiccups. And I haven't had a thing to drink. I promise you, not a thing to drink. Not even my accustomed brandy have I had for breakfast this morning. Speaking of which, it's 19 minutes past 8. So those are a few of the changes that you'll see in Mirador, which you can see on Facebook in two different places. One, Mirador Television, Mirador Television Lewis, and the other, I think, just Mirador Television. You can see it on our website, miradortelevision.com, or you can see it on YouTube, Mirador Television YouTube. So there are ways that you can watch at the moment. And hopefully at the end of the coming month, at the end of March, we shall be back broadcasting to the world. We had to cut our corners. We had to say, no, it is an expensive item. But we found the power of it. We have been talking from Lewis about issues that have struck a chord with people around the world. And when I say around the world, not just the United States, not just Canada, but I mean, we had one gentleman who regularly would send us little notes from Patagonia, would you believe? And we've certainly had a number from Africa. So um, we have been touching the world from Lewis, and the things that happen in Lewis quite often are things that people align with in the rest of the world. It touches a chord. Yes, we've got that problem as well. How did the people in Lewis handle it? And nothing could be further from confirmation of that. Is that we had the mayor of Lewis, Delaware, on talking to our mayor here, and the two of them found that they had far more in common than they absolutely thought, and wish that they'd talk some more and want to talk again. We will stay supportive of the charities. We support the food bank. We still have got a bit to do for them on this last Valentine's Day, because we just haven't had enough people to do justice to some of these things. But we will actually use that material so that we can show what the food banks are all about and continue to support. We will continue with the lovely Leslie Nora Hills artist who supports cancer research. And we will continue to help the mayor with any of his initiatives. And we will continue to enjoy the young people in New York who are looked after by people in Lewis, would you believe? I mean, that's a wonderful turn up for the books, isn't it? People in Lewis look after challenge children, shall we put it that way, in New York. It's terrific, absolutely terrific. So we will continue all those activities, but you will see a distinct change in our style, in our content, and in our people. So that's just a little alert for the upcoming. Just so I'll remind you of the sort of thing that we, sort of people that we have, and the sort of things that we'll do. Here is Jane.
Hi, I'm Jane at Mirador Television, and I love to recycle, upcycle, renovate, decorate, paint, and if I can find any old junk, I'm happy to turn it into something else. So in the next few months, I'm going to give you some ideas and show you what I'm up to at home, from turning tins into bins, making garden cushions, and my recent find was a Lloyd Loom ottoman, which has a wonky leg, but I'm going to try and renovate the leg and find some lovely fabrics. So lots going on. This week, I'm just going to show you a couple of old cot bumpers that I found hanging around the house from some time ago. And I thought, well, I don't want to waste the foam. I'll turn them into some seat cushions for the garden bench.
Well, that's Jane, and it's just a little promo for her, not her full program. But you can catch her once we're back in full swing. And that full swing starts on Monday. I can't say that we will be hitting top gear on Monday or even Tuesday, but we're aiming in the right direction, and the enthusiasm is coming back, and the sun is in the sky, and the shops will soon open, and even more importantly, the pubs will soon open, and we can take beer home if we wish. A 6-pack from a pub. Oh, terrific. Absolutely fantastic. Well, life is changing. All right, 24 minutes past the hour. I'm not going to get too excited about the headlines this morning. We still have some COVID problems, of course, and one would expect that. And you can actually find out from other media what the situation is. But there were no alarms overnight. There's nobody coming along and saying, hey, guess what? This one's bumped and we don't know why. Or this one bumped and we don't know how to stop it. There was none of that drama this morning. So let's be very happy that COVID seems to be on course and allowing us to get out of our fortresses and back into mainstream life. The Scots are fighting with Alex Salmon and Nicola Sturgeon having at one another's throats. One could expect that. The motorways, the smart motorways, are being it's suggested that perhaps they'll be done away with because too many lives are being lost. But then again, we've heard this before, that and when it comes down to sometimes pragmatism against the question of losing lives, is pragmatism quite often wins out. And the pragmatic approach, of course, would be is keep the traffic moving, keep the smart motorways. So it'll be interesting to see the battle that goes on there. And the National Trust plans to plant blossom trees around the UK. And that I can't wait for. That is terrific. Right. We should be playing a bunch of commercials right now, but it's 25 minutes past, and I would much rather than the commercials is play you a reminder about who we at Mirador are, because a lot of you don't know. And I would hope that those who do enjoy us would actually share something like this into other people's um, what do they call them? Boxes, I suppose. At least post them into various areas where others can see them. We don't say you've got to endorse us, but just say to people who aren't aware of us, well, give them a try. It might be your cup of tea. It might not. You may be the sort that actually enjoys very much the type of thing that the BBC can provide. We are not that. I'll tell you that. We're very laid back, very relaxed. We make mistakes galore and we don't care. And apparently neither do you. So let me just remind you who we are. And by that time, it'll be time for us to say toodle pip. Well, that's it. That's Mirador Television. This is Lewis in the United Kingdom. And I'm happy to say that we are looking at a nice day and possibly a nice weekend. And I believe that we're back with the Six Nations this coming weekend. So that will be me, a bottle of beer, and slumped in front of the television and on Saturday and Sunday afternoon. I've got lots to do, but those are sacred times for me. And I will just be out of commission, just to warn you. Those people who might like to feel they can talk to me, I'm out of commission during those periods and those times. I think, let's see, England are playing Wales, I believe. Yeah, I'm not quite too sure of the other two games, but anyway, a good weekend sport. There it is. We're coming up to the witching hour. It's 30 minutes past 8 o'clock, 8:30. So I'm going to say until Monday morning, although who knows nowadays, because we can go live, we pop up all over the place. Never mind. It is 8:30, and here we go until Monday. Boom.